really appreciate the ways that all of you focused on the U.S., which obviously the panel was about, but I think a lot of times this conversation, and I'm not that familiar with the Muslim-Christian one, but more broadly, like a lot of times we sort of dislocate it to the Muslim world, that we sort of talk about as if it's not in the U.S. And you guys really articulated the sort of the neighbor part of it, the knowing who you live with part of it, which I appreciate. But I also would love to hear your thoughts on the broader geopolitical context, which you definitely mentioned, talking about the wars and about Israel-Palestine. But I guess I kind of think that the fear and ignorance that you all talked about and the economic situation, those are sort of conditions that make it possible for people to sort of accept the Islamophobia that the media and politicians and other people in power are preaching. But I sort of see empire as the sort of an important motivation of where that's coming from, not among individuals, but like the reason the sort of right, just the bigger picture with globalization. So really, any of you, your thoughts on that?
That maybe there's an opportunity here for Americans to figure out, what our core value, why we're here, what we're doing here, what's the American project that we're about now, that isn't related to empire, democracy, exportation, and consumerism. I think in a way that we've lost our way and we don't know what we're fighting for here at home, what we're valuing, what's of real value, and so I think this is a time when we can come together to, figure some of that out again. And to pick up on your point that you were making about Presbyterians focused on justice and good policy, there is a lot that we share with Muslims and Jews around issues of justice, both theologically, in terms of the practice of our living traditions. And I think that we have a lot in common if we really search out the partners we can work with to make social change. I mean, that's one of the projects, that we're hoping to work on in this campaign for New York City in this next year. What are the social projects what are the justice projects that we can work on together? Because quite frankly, I have more in common with some of my Muslim and Jewish colleagues around issues of justice than some of my fellow Christians and sister Christians. So just one last little anecdote. I was at a program last week on this, one of our first programs, Taking the Bully Out of the Pulpit. Yeah. And Bert Vysotsky, I asked them to give a positive image of work, of justice work or whatever, and he said, he teaches at Jewish Theological Seminary, and he said colored greens. And I said, what? And it was the idea of work. It's a simple thing, but it's a profound thing. He stood for 2 hours in a soup kitchen somewhere, flanked by a Muslim on one side and a Muslim on the other, and they were cleaning collard greens together, to cook together. And of course having deep conversation about family, about the world, about the geopolitical situation, and of course about their faith while they were cleaning collard greens. So of such, will our future be made,
They actually orchestrated. I want to mention one more thing about Israel and the Palestinians. Some Muslims believe that Israel should leave. You have some Muslims believe that, okay? And that's their attitude. And That's not my attitude. My attitude is that Israel is there, and Israel is going to stay there, and we have to get with that. But I believe when Yasser Arafat was alive, for the longest time he was saying, we're not going to recognize them. We're not going to recognize them, so we can't have any peace talks, because we're not recognizing them. And as a young person, I was saying, how are you not recognizing them? They're there. They're actually there. What are you talking about? You're not recognizing them. So after so many years, he recognized them, and they began to talk about peace. So you have some people that say, no, they shouldn't be there, but they're there. The Indians, land was taken from the Indians, right? Truth. This is true. Land was taken from the Indians, and the Indians have their reservations here and there, but nobody's talking about giving it back. We move on. And even in Islam, if particular group overthrows the government, that new government becomes the government. And then we move on, you see? So as far as the annexing, I don't think that should continue. And I think that it should be 2 states. I do believe that. So I know that there's some Muslims that say, no, they shouldn't be there, No, but they're there. And they should be allowed to live there, and they shouldn't be under this threat of fear all the time, where they got to build all these walls and things and not be able to live freely with their neighbors, the Palestinians. It should be, the peace process should continue. So that's my belief. And I believe more people believe that than the people who don't.
And yet at the end of the day, the expectation is that everyone is to be like us. They want to watch MTV. And I think that's not a reality. And so again, we have moved to an issue of dealing with power over against a strong lack of appreciation for whatever the cultural norms are, even though some of them are not healthy. And so it's a very complex piece as we talk about globalization. And one of the classic examples that I'll lay out, and I'm through with this, is that, I won't say I'm through with it, but this is the answer I have right now, is that even in the face of what we're dealing with immigration, I am convinced that globalization, we saw it in this country as going one way. That we would be able to have access to a larger span of the globe. But we never dreamed and envisioned that we would have an influx of individuals coming across our border for economic freedom and security. And so now stop. And we have found a number of ways to let certain people in, to keep certain people out. And we've also found a number of ways to demonize some populations that we declare are undocumented and illegal, while there are others in expanded ways, even right here in New York, that have been able to stay in this country for a while, and we've never seen one press release about it. So infused in all of that are the cultural struggles across the globe of race, the dynamics of the economy and finances, and who has money and who doesn't, and ultimately who has power and who does not. And I think we've got to be honest with ourselves that this whole issue of globalization is a very complex piece, and it has a tendency at times to look good and at times to look very, very bad and bring out the worst in us. And I think we've got a lot of work to do to begin to speak and look toward that. I don't have all the answers to it, but I know we've got a lot of work.